for our feature presentation.
He'll be fine on the mountain.
JB and Darren on the JB and Goldwater Show.
Line drive right field, base hit. South Carolina wins the College World Series. Watson, touchdown. Hunter Renfrow. He got him, and it's all over. Coastal Carolina rules the roost. They win the championship. And South Carolina has won the national championship.
The Senegal baseball team has done it again, but this time the Bulldogs beat one of the top teams in the country. They are giant killers. Get the ball to Bennett. He does.
Gamecocks are in the Final Four.
Afternoon and welcome aboard the JB and Goldwater Show, live, loud, and online, and driven by our friends and yours at Stokes Volkswagen. Find them at stokesvw.com. Find us on the JB and Goldwater app. If you download that, it is free, and you can watch and listen to our program daily. You can always go back and check us out if you happen to miss something as well. You can head to jbandgoldwatershow.com. Find us across all social media platforms at JB and Goldwater. Individually, of course, at Sports Media JB and at Darren Goldwater. 843-321-8893 is our phone number. It is also our text line, and it is open and available to all of you. Here till 2 o'clock today. Between now and then, we'll be joined both by Wes Mitchell and Perry Orth. Wes Mitchell on the phone today, probably from the facility. Gamecock, a couple of Gamecock offensive players will be meeting with the media, and so Wes will give us a little bit of an update on that, and then we'll look back over the weekend and fuss and discuss on anything that has come out of camp. Perry will talk some quarterbacks today, and through the rest of football season, Perry will be with us on Mondays as well. We've also got the Braves. They are playing well, getting close. So are the Phillies, by the way, who happen to be leading the National League East. The Olympics are over. We'll wrap those. Miami's Derek King has another name, image, and likeness deal, and it's something unique. I'll tell you about that here in just a little while as well. Of course, we're going to lead off in just a moment with the passing of Bobby Bowden. Will Muschamp promoted to an on-field role in Athens, Georgia. So, as always, we're pretty full around here. Glad you can join us, and good afternoon, my friend Darren Goldwater.
It is a good afternoon. I was debating a Nationals shirt today because I know Braves folks are all excited because they're moving on up in the standings. But the reality of it is, had the Phillies not hammered the Nationals and put the Mets into this slide, the Braves wouldn't be where they are either, had they also not taken 2 games from the Nationals, and they should have taken 3. So I was going to wear that to say I support everyone beating the Braves, and I'll show that by allowing the Phillies, my fandom, for the rest of the season as Bryce Harper goes for his MVP.
So as a Nationals fan, if you had to pick allegiance between the Phillies and the Braves, you choose the Phillies is what you're saying?
If I had to pick a team out of the big leagues other than the Nationals, the Braves would be last. Like dead.
Why?
Last. Because I grew up a Pirates fan, and Sid Bream happened. And then I became a Nationals right. And then I became a Nationals fan, and the Braves are still the biggest rival.
Okay.
There's one team. One. I mean, and that goes for pretty much every sport. The Braves would be the seller. If I ranked every sports team in the country, they'd be last.
That's interesting, because if you ask Braves fans if you ask Braves fans the same question, I don't know that many of them would say I would rank the Nationals dead last. I don't think they care.
Well, no, because the Nationals haven't been around long enough. And I think if you ask most Nationals fans, Mets would come up number 1. And they'd be really low. They're low on the list.
Yeah.
But where I came from before the Nationals existed, and the heartache of the Braves, and then having them follow me as I switched fandom, that no.
Yeah, I think for I think it's the Mets are probably enemy number 1,
Mm-hmm.
and then probably the Phillies, and then whoever after
Yeah.
that. Whoever's good. I don't know. Unless you're a Yankees fan, generally enemy number one is always the Yankees.
Yeah.
Like everybody hates the Yankees or you love the Yankees. There's no in between. You either don't like them or you do like them.
It's true.
All right. Hello to all of our friends here showing up here on this Monday afternoon. Thank the good Lord that it is sunny and not rainy. Last week was a disaster, but we hosted a party at our house on Saturday, and it did go off. It went off without a hitch. Had to funnel around some water in the backyard, but we got it going. So that was good. And now we can come dry us out and let's march right on towards football season. But this will be the first football season in a long time without Bobby Bowden on this earth, passing away at 91 years old, 377 career wins, second only behind Joe Paterno. Pancreatic cancer is what took Bobby Bowden over the weekend. A guy who the record and the records and the achievements on the field and all those things, they pop and they stand for themselves. We all know what they are. But Bobby Bowden is also a guy, the way that I think about Bobby Bowden is very knew who he was, outspoken on what he believed in, very truthful, very much like Coach Spurrier. I think that was probably one of the greatest eras ever for the sport, is having those two as rivals in the Sunshine State, and especially in the 90s when Florida State was the team of the 90s. And then you could probably argue that Florida was 1B, right behind Florida State. Their jabs back and forth, but most importantly, their success. And obviously, as time has gone on, it's proven to be their character as well as coaches. So, what, that was hard news to hear. I don't know Bobby Bowden. I've never met the guy in my life, but we grow up in sport, right, Darren? And we feel like we get to know people, and seeing the reaction across the country, the common theme is that Bobby Bowden cared more about the person than the player. And I think that's a heck of a legacy. And certainly rest in peace and prayers to his family. What an emotional weekend for college football.
I heard a lot of different tributes and a lot of different media personalities, reactions, and the stories that they wrote, and then dictated back to us. Number one, this happened very quickly from the public standpoint. We just really heard that Bobby was sick, and in his words, he was at peace with it, and we knew that this was a life-ending situation. Then it was a couple of days ago, and all of a sudden Terry Bowden takes a leave of absence to go be with his dad, and I'm thinking, okay, yeah, this is quick. He's been out of the spotlight for a couple of years now, Bobby Bowden has. So hearing these tributes to him about the man, Bobby Bowden, and hearing it from himself, going through everything that he accomplished, but essentially, it's about the impact on men and doing things the right way. The best interview I heard was Leonard Hamilton, who, when he moved in, he's the basketball coach down there. When he moved in, they weren't all settled when he got the job. They kind of rented a house. They ended up buying that house and staying there. So by chance, he moved in next to Bobby Bowden. So he first knew him as this, iconic football coach, and he's my neighbor, and we'll get to know each other. Now we're working in the same place. So he came at the interview with the perspective of, here's how I met him. But now when I think back about Bobby Bowden, I think about the type of guy that he was and the type of father figure that Bobby Bowden was. I mean, he's a giant in the game of college football.
Yep, there's no question. His fiercest rivals respected him. Even, guys like Steve Spurrier, who for a long time, I think we all thought that Spurrier and Bowden just didn't like each other. I don't think that was true. On the field, they probably didn't, but that's competition. I think off the field, based on, more information as it's come out over the last few weeks and how Coach Spurrier has talked about Bobby Bowden. They have been together on a couple of little off the field projects and things like that. A great respect for one another as men. There's just so many others out there that you could bring into this conversation. I've read a lot of these comments. We don't have to necessarily read them on the air, but 26 seasons of 8 or more wins for Bobby Bowden at Florida State. They had in their entire history before he arrived 4 of 8 or more wins. So on the field, I mean, Bobby Bowden, if you think about Florida and specifically think about the Gators and the Noles and what their history was before those coaches arrived, Steve Spurrier and Bobby Bowden, it's those are the examples like where in this college football bubble that we all like to live in, like here and now is the only thing that matters and has ever happened. Like we have to all remember that history started somewhere for these programs that have these elite standards. Like there's a reason why we look every year at Florida State and go, what's wrong at Florida State? Because they were really, really good under Bobby Bowden, but they weren't until Bobby Bowden got there. So he set a new standard in Tallahassee, just like Spurrier did. And, and there's obviously plenty of other examples out there, but history's got to start somewhere. And so that's when you have these conversations, no matter what school you're a fan of, South Carolina or Boise State, or it doesn't matter. I think we all need to remember that these programs, everybody wasn't good at one point in time, and then they got really good under somebody. And that's why we have the conversations we have today over what is wrong with certain teams and things like that. So, yeah, his story speaks for itself. A couple national championships. I mean, and how about this? From 1992 to 2000, Florida State was 98, 11, and 1 in 9 years. 98, 11, and 1 in 9 years. Fascinating. Just amazing.
It's a decade of dominance that rivals really any other in any major sport, to the point where I've said many times on the show, I did not grow up in a college sports family. I grew up in a major city with parents from another major city. And at one time we lived in a third major city. This was not a college sports family at all. Mm-hmm. But the one thing that piqued my interest in college football before I got to Penn State, it was Peter Warwick, right? And it was Florida State, and it was Bobby Bowden, and it was Charlie Ward. And I ended up liking the basketball teams as well. And I ended up following the baseball team because college baseball, as much as on TV now, was barely on TV in the 90s. But growing up outside DC, I'd get some ACC stuff, and I'd follow them. I mean, so for someone who's a fringe college sports fan, in the mid-90s, I'm 14, 15 years old, that captivated me, and that had my interest in the sport.
Well, I mean, you just think about Florida. Think about 2 decades worth of football. Mm-hmm. The 80s, which the Hurricanes owned the 80s, but they were the bad boys. They had the flash, and they had probably breaking a lot of rules and things like that. Not probably, they were breaking a lot of rules, and just all types of stuff. I mean, but that was fire, right? Like that was the cool thing in college football in the 80s was Miami, and then it transitioned itself. To Florida State, but then Spurrier does what he does at Florida, and it creates this elite level rivalry. I can make the argument today that the Florida State rivalry, if you wanted to rank, which somebody does every single year, the top rivalries in the sport of college football. I'm not saying they're not a top rivalry. I'm just saying that sometimes they're forgotten about as one of the best. Mm-hmm. But if you had this conversation back in the mid 90s, this one would probably be at the top, alongside, Michigan, Ohio State, alongside Auburn, Alabama, and you'd have Florida State. And obviously, what makes a great rivalry? Well, there's a lot of things, but, they're right down the road from each other, Tallahassee and Gainesville. So obviously it's an interstate rivalry and all that stuff, but they were really good. And they had these icon coaches who were different in style, but they were flashy. Bobby Bowden was more of an old school guy, but it was some of what he did as a coach that made him flashy. The punt Ruski and these things that he took chances on in big moments, and they worked. And then you had Spurrier, who, was kicking everybody's rear end, introducing this new brand of football into the Southeastern Conference, this tradition of run it down your throat, and we're going to kind of mosey right along, but we're going to bully everybody on the block and beat everybody. And then all of a sudden, here comes this throw it all around, fun and gun, zazz it up type offense with a very mouthy coach who took shots at Bobby Bowden in Florida State and took shots at Phil Fulmer in Tennessee, and pretty much anybody else he could get his hands on, because he was beating pretty much all of them except Bobby Bowden, 5-8-1 in his career against the Noles' former head coach. So, but if you think about that time, like if you were growing up like you were and like I was, and that was on a national stage, our introduction to college football, you couldn't have had anything cooler. I mean, it was cool. They made the sport cool.
Nailed it right on the head. That's why they were fun to watch. They were flashy. They were prime time, right? That he fit them or they fit him. I'm not sure which one was first, but he came out of there as that. I mean, and I know he was flashy when he played. I feel like back then some of the coaches may have stayed at jobs longer. I could be wrong, but that's the sense, especially icons like Bowden, like Spurrier when he was at Florida. You had the rivalry at Michigan that was back and forth, and it allowed, I think that's something that people are longing for in college football again, that we may never get back to, is guys holding a post and a level of success. I mean, what Saban's doing now rivals it. I mean, it may equal it. It may surpass it.
Dabo.
But is there, yeah, but like their rivalry has been recent, and they're not even, and they don't play every year. They sometimes play in the postseason. So yeah, that can become it, but it doesn't feel like it's the same thing right now.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, that's one of the things, as the sport changes, the traditions of college football. One of the things that, again, that we grew up with, and the generations that preceded us, for the most part, was tenure. When it came, college football, you committed to a program as a player, and you were there generally for 4 years. There was a time when freshmen couldn't play, so they'd sit out, and then they'd stick around for the next few years and play football, and then go on about their lives or their NFL careers or whatever. And coaches back then, obviously, it wasn't what it is now with the financial market, but coaches back then, they were there, and they were the coach. I mean, they were around a while. 10 years wasn't a big deal. 15 years, 20 years, whatever. Now, we see guys get fired after 2 years, and in that generation, the Bowdens, the Paternos, the Spurriers, the RC Slocums, you could go on with any name you want to insert here.
Cam Beckler and Hayes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. They look at this and they're like, there's college football coaches who are losing jobs after 2 years and after 3 years. Like, how is that even possible? But the sport has evolved and players can transfer and things like that. So, we're not necessarily going to get into all that, but yeah, it's certainly a loss. I'm kind of transitioning to this, and Craig just sent us a message here that will pop up on the screen that is part of it. He says, quote, it's just hard to watch Clemson be the FSU of the 90s, because Clemson is the FSU of the 90s. There is a similar conversation that is starting to, as we know, because we've talked about it, kind of kick up rocks around here, to one that was had 30 years ago or over 30 years ago. And that at that time was, should Florida State join the Southeastern Conference? Because let's remember, they were independent before they joined the ACC. And then, of course, we all remember in 1992, it was actually Arkansas and South Carolina that joined the league. Back then, the Southeastern Conference was looking to basically take advantage of essentially a loophole that would allow them to grow the league, split it into divisions, play a championship game. And, of course, what happens there? Capitalize on TV revenue. Well, welcome to 2021. The SEC, of course, has now added Oklahoma and Texas. They'll be joining the league at some point in time in the next few years. Clemson has been in the conversation as to why they should or shouldn't join the SEC. And I'm talking strictly from a competitive standpoint here. And I'm talking strictly from a competitive standpoint because of exactly what Bobby Bowden said 30-something years ago and what he reiterated on the Paul Feinbaum show back in 2015, when he said, we didn't want to play Auburn and Alabama and Florida and Georgia every single year. From a competitive standpoint, that was stupid. We thought it would be a better route to go to the ACC, where we wouldn't have to play those guys every year. So it's easy to wonder, like, I think a lot of folks assume, Darren, which I think is a poor assumption because we don't know the answer to this, but if Florida State had joined the SEC, say as part of that 92 expansion deal, either instead of South Carolina or instead of Arkansas or with them and alongside another program, who knows, would they have accomplished under Bobby Bowden what they began accomplishing? They'd already accomplished so much, but I just read the numbers, 92 to 2000, a record of 98, 11, and 1 with 2 national championships. Would they have duplicated that in the Southeastern Conference? I don't know that answer. They may have been better. They may have been the same. They may have been worse. But what we do have is Bobby Bowden's comments of, I don't want to have to go through Bama, Auburn, Florida, and Georgia every year, amongst others in this league. So if you transition that conversation to today, strictly competitive, I'm not talking about TV contracts. I'm not talking about any of that. I'm talking from a competitive standpoint. It's an eerily similar talk. It's an eerily similar conversation to have about Clemson, who's dominating the ACC. Why on earth would they ever want to be a part of the SEC and have to go through what they would have to go through to accomplish what they've been accomplishing, just like Florida State did?
Here's the problem, though. What you're saying is dead on right. If it's strictly competitive, then what's the advantage? Why would you want to do that? Like Bobby Bowden said, I don't want to go through those teams all the time. What would be the point in that? The problem is I can't have that conversation alone, because that's not what the conversation is anymore. The sport is so much different now than it was then. And so it might be very beneficial to make that schedule harder and join something Super League-ish, if that's what actually ends up happening, than staying back in the ACC, because the dollars are real. It's not like it's gone up like percentages by year, like percentage growth, like people are supposed to get raises that I've never actually received that way. It like these numbers and these contracts and the dollars, they've multiplied, I don't know how many fold. So the conversation isn't just, hey, from a competitive standpoint, why would we do this? If it was just that, yeah, it makes perfect sense. Let's just keep rolling through the ACC. But you have to look into the future and where is college football going to be and what is the best position for Clemson to be. You could say the same thing for Ohio State and Michigan. You could say the same thing for Oklahoma and Texas. Where are they best positioned wherever college football moves? Because that has to be part of the conversation.
Yeah, I mean, there are some parallels. I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, but back in 1992, I can speak from the South Carolina side. The reason that the Gamecocks, one of the main reasons that they joined the SEC and going from independence into a league, was definitely financially motivating because, as we all know, you split the amount of money. Back then, if you were getting $1 million a year and you equate it to now where you're getting 50 and 60 million, yeah, the money's so much more. But back then, that was still way more money than we'd ever seen in the sport. And the SEC capitalized on that because they did have a renegotiated TV contract that coincided with a conference championship game, of course, in Atlanta. So, I guess it was originally set up in Birmingham, but in Atlanta. But so there, it's hard. Like we got to remember that money's always been a part of it, but comprehending what amount of money back then to what it is now, two different scales. $50 million today and $100 million then. Yeah, there's a $49 million difference, but nobody back then was dealing with $50 million deals. So it's just where the sport was. By the way,
that's why the dollars now, it was financially driven then, and it's financially driven now. It's just so much more so, right? I mean, it's like if you're making, Craig threw up there, I think that, Bowden got a raise from 33 to 37,000. If you're making 20,000, someone offers you $1 million. It's like, well, okay, I'm going to go do that. And I don't really care what that is or what I'm currently doing now. That's the dollar figure that it feels like now for college athletics. It's like this, you got to go do this or you're going to just be left behind.
Yeah. I mean, it's certainly a part of it. And back then as well, we have to remember there wasn't a playoff system. I mean, you were basically anointed national champion, and the easiest way to do that was to to beat a bunch of teams that weren't as good as you if you could. Maybe you're going to have to beat one or two every year that are. And that was the route they chose. That was the route that Bobby Bowden chose. He was open about it. He was honest about it. It didn't mean that the teams around Florida State wouldn't get better, but they didn't get better. Florida State got better. And at that point in time, too, let's be clear, like Florida State, if they when they, would play somebody in a national championship game or a bowl game or whatever, teams from other leagues, they were beating them too. But he was talking about the grind of the league itself. I can't get there with this team as consistent as we want to, probably having to go through that schedule. That's what fans argue today about other teams, and not just Clemson and South Carolina because we're in the Palmetto State, but you hear this everywhere. Oh my God, if we didn't have to go through the grind of the SEC, we'd be able to do what so-and-so is doing, as well. So, I mean, those are all side pieces to the conversation, but it's just interesting where we are in 2021 having this conversation. The SEC has expanded again. They've now expanded twice since the initial in 1992 with Arkansas and South Carolina. And now we're back in this gray area of should they again, who should they go get? And it's not Florida State that's the face of the league. It's Clemson that's the face of the league, but they're similar situations, and that Clemson pretty much beats the crap out of everybody every year in their league. And Florida State was doing exactly that for a decade, basically, back when Bobby Bowden was in his heyday. And so we'll have to see what it looks like going forward. But the league hasn't – the team names have changed, Darren, but the league hasn't changed. The league itself still has one top dog and then everybody else.
It's true. It's a very, very good point. Clint points out, too, that when you're thinking about it and the correlation and the similarities, what the postseason format would look like. You could, in the Bobby Bowden era, stay with a lighter schedule, dominate it, get to your bowl game, and win a national championship. He proved that a couple of times. In the future, can you? Or will you be able to? I don't know. I don't know what the playoff is going to look like. I don't know what where the teams shake out, who's in what level. You don't know what the bowl situation is going to look like. So you got to think that way and think into the future and hope you're somewhat right. Yeah,
that's it. And when Clint's right, we kind of started to hit on that earlier. If there was a 12-team playoff back then, or even a 14 playoff, would that conversation have been different? I maybe. I don't know. But at the end of the day, it's about the life of Bobby Bowden, and it was a life incredibly well lived. So rest in peace to one of the great football coaches that has ever lived in any sport or in any level of the sport. Incredible.
No doubt.
We're going to get to Muschamp in just a little while. We've got the Braves, some Olympic stuff, Perry Orth at 1:30. But coming up next, we do have Wes Mitchell. He was set to join us by phone today, Darren, but he has sent me a little nugget. He can pop on the video screen if you'd like to dial him up that way. So one way or another, I'll leave it up to the engineer/producer here. In about 2 minutes, we'll have Wes Mitchell joining us.
Here's a behind-the-scenes thing. Shoot him a text back and say, do it, because he's the one who can pop into the video now.
Okay, well, we'll do that. All right, 12:28 on a Monday afternoon, and it's sunny, thank God. Darren and JB and Wes Mitchell on the other side of this break on the JB and Goldwater Show, driven by Stokes Volkswagen.
This is Mike Mazzell for Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate Road with exciting news. It's springtime and we're playing ball. Most dealerships don't have any inventory, but at Stokes Volkswagen we do. So we're playing ball on every new Volkswagen in stock. Every new Volkswagen available with zero down. Qualified buyers can sign and drive with interest-free financing for 60 months. Remember, Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate Road is the fastest, easiest way to sell your car and get the most money for your trade. Plus, we'll take any trade in any condition, paid off or not. Is your credit in a slump?
Strike two.
If you've got $500 down and you make at least $2,000 per month, our lenders can get you approved. So if you want to strike out, that's okay. But if you want to hit a home run and save on a new Volkswagen, come see us today at Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate Road or StokesVW.com.
$1,666 per month per $1,000 borrowed for 60 months at 0% APR with zero down. Plus tax tag. Includes $499.50 administration fee. Subject to VCI credit approval. Expires month end.
Peace and love at Stokes VW.
Wando Power Equipment, the trusted home of Hustler zero-turn residential and commercial mowers. There is nobody more trusted in South Carolina than our friends from Wando Power Equipment. They've been providing elite commercial and residential service for over 30 years. Landscape Services have turned to their selection of Hustler zero-turn mowers like the Raptor. Bigger, stronger, faster, and the most durable Raptor Hustler has ever designed. Located on Daniel Island and online at wandopower.com. Wando Power Equipment, owned by the Price family, the home of Hustler zero-turn mowers, rentals, service, and specializing in family and friendship.
Shrimping season's back. That means local caught shrimp. That's right, local caught shrimp back on the menu at the Dog and Duck. All 3 locations, Bell Hall, Park West, and Clements Ferry Road, now featuring once again local caught hand-breaded shrimp, plus other daily specials like the Game Day Burger every Wednesday, Rib Night on Friday, rotating taps all the time, and all the TVs you can possibly imagine for whatever you want to watch. The Dog and Duck in Bell Hall, Park West, and on Clements Ferry Road. Okay, what's going on today, huh? Anything to talk about?
All right, greetings and a good Monday afternoon. Greetings and a good Tuesday afternoon. Greetings and a good Wednesday afternoon, and welcome aboard. All right, greetings and a good Thursday afternoon. Greetings and a good Friday afternoon, and welcome aboard. All right, 12:31 Monday afternoon. Welcome back to the JB and Goldwater show, driven by Stokes Volkswagen. A reliable car is the Atlas that you can find at Stokes VW, stokesvw.com. Tons of room for all your tailgate gear if you're headed up the road, whether it's Columbia, Clemson, Conway, downtown Charleston, or maybe somewhere else as far as Knoxville, Tennessee, Chapel Hill, North Carolina, Athens, Georgia. Wherever you may be going to watch football this year, you should be driving a Volkswagen Atlas. Right now, the 2018 to 2021 pre-owns, they're looking sharp, they're priced well, and they're in North Charleston at Stokes Volkswagen, stokesvw.com, stokesvw.com. And I can assure you this, because I've been in one, and of course, Darren, I know you've been in one. There is a lot of room for all that tailgate gear. So maybe you're like my family, where you're gonna at some point in time introduce a couple of young bucks to their first football game, and you gotta pack all kinds of crap you never had to pack before. Probably gonna need a ride that can accommodate that. stokesvw.com.
I was actually behind one on the road the other day. I've been in one. I've driven one, but that was the first time I was actually behind one. They're out there. They look good. They look good inside and outside of the car.
It's a sweet looking ride. I'll give it that. There's no question. All right, we're going to keep you updated on what some of the players are saying from practice before we get Wes in here in just a moment. But I will add this on Kevin Harris, and speaking with reporters, he says that he doesn't know, he has not been practicing. For those that maybe have missed that, I think probably by now all of you probably know what the SEC's leading returning rusher has been up to, but he's not been on the field. He had a little back procedure a little while back, and he hasn't been cleared. But he said he expects to be out there for the opener. He doesn't know yet when he will be cleared, but he feels really, really good. So that's certainly good news for Kevin Harris. But I know that you missed some time early in practice. Number one, you want to get things cleaned up, and number two, Darren, there's a guy right behind him named Marshawn Lloyd who's going to continue to get a bunch of reps. So is Condre White and Rashad Amos. And losing all those reps to guys behind you might clear the way for some stiffer competition come week one and beyond that. But nonetheless, the running back room is in pretty good shape for Carolina. All right, there's Wes Mitchell with Gamecocks Central, 1233 on this Monday afternoon. Again, we'll keep you updated on what some of the players are saying. 4 of them were requested and speaking. Jalen Brooks, in addition to Kevin Harris, Jalen Brooks, Chad Terrell, Josh Van. Hey, Wes.
What's up, guys?
You don't have your party outfit on yet? You're just going to surprise us all with your glitz and glamour on the 20th?
Yeah, what does my party outfit look like?
I don't know. You got to tell us. I mean, it's got to be something, right? You're going to stand out, aren't you?
I was figuring you're going to be wearing like a Braves jersey or something.
Well, that would be. I'm surprised you're bringing that up, but yeah, that would be good.
I thought you were going to be on the phone, and if I knew you'd be on video, I would have actually worn the National shirt. I explained why I didn't, but why I was thinking of it, because we're helping the Phillies beat the Braves, and you even lost one to the Nationals AA team the other night. Thanks. So I was explaining that, but we don't have to revisit that.
We did win the series, so
Yeah, I know.
Jeff Passan thinks the Braves will win the division.
I mean, the Phillies can't keep
nothing
winning forever. They're on. I think they've won 8 in a row or something. But
yeah, they have. They'll lose at some point in time.
At some point, and they play the Dodgers this week, I think. So
they'll lose.
Have you seen? I don't want to get too off track. The Dodgers lineup now that Trey Turner's in there. I mean, it's an all-star team. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's stupid.
Yeah,
it's
money in baseball, man. Money isn't working yet for the Yankees, though. And they're certainly not working for the Red Sox. They're getting clobbered over the last couple of weeks. All right, let's get right to it, Wes. What have you heard from the weekend, and what has stood out?
Yeah, not much from the weekend. I mean, a couple of closed practices. No media availabilities. They obviously had the big, long sort of media day on Thursday, and then a little bit of an open practice on Friday. And offensive guys, as you said, talking right now. Colin, Chris, and I believe Kendall, our intern, are all at that right now. I just got off the scrimmage field watching Antonio Williams, so I was over there for that, for their scrimmage against Greenville. But yeah, I mean, practice is underway. Everybody's excited. I don't know if there's necessarily a whole lot new on that end, but obviously, I think just the feedback we've seen on the website from the fan base. I mean, it does seem like there is a pretty big excitement level from everybody right now just to have some football to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, my understanding spoke with what I would call a source, I guess, contact. I don't know. You're the reporter. You tell me. Yesterday, who said, I said, how's it been going up there? And his response was crisp. Wes, generally early in camp, teams are working out the kinks. I don't look too much into that word, but crisp sounds good after just 4 days of practice and having a summer off basically just for workouts and private things and stuff like that. Generally, you hear coaches say, well, it's been a little sloppy, but it's early and we'll get it corrected. But crisp sounds a little better.
Yeah. I mean, crisp is a good word. I think coaches aren't complaining about crisp. I think coaches are pretty happy about crisp. But I think also it's still very early. You still, I mean, it's so hard to tell when you're playing against yourself, and you're not playing in pads. You're not scrimmaging yet. You're not really out there actually playing the game of football. So, we'll see. I think you look at this team, they're, as we knew coming in, man, there are some real strengths. There are some positives, but there's also plenty of unknowns that I think will really only be known once we see it on the field against opponents and stuff like that. I do think it is a blessing for South Carolina that they're opening this season against a team that's not some powerhouse. You're not going up against an ACC team or anything like that. Some of these showcase games are fun for the fans, but with South Carolina where they are right now, brand new staff, such roster turnover as well, it helps to be playing a team like Eastern Illinois that I really, frankly, don't know anything about at this point.
There is no question, Wes. I mean, not to discredit East Carolina either, and I certainly think the Pirates are going to be fired up and ready to go when Carolina rolls into Greenville on September the 11th. But those two, you gotta basically an FCS game in week one, and then it's a road game, but it's a group of 5 program that's really been struggling over the last few years in week 2 before you get into the league. Of course, it's a tough entrance into the league. You got to go to Athens. Last time they were there, they won. But anyways, to your point, I think you're right. Let me ask you this. Talked to Pat DeMarco last Wednesday. He said right here on our program that there's 4 guys in the backfield that he thinks are going to be in the NFL one day. And he was obviously referencing Kevin Harris, Marshawn Lloyd, Zakondre White, and Rashad Amos. He likes all of them, thinks that they're 4 guys who have a great chance to get to the league. But Kevin hasn't been practicing. The rest of those guys are getting the reps. Does that mean anything?
I mean, I think it means something for the rest of those guys. And Kevin Harris, he's played ball. He knows he knows how to be successful in the league. Now, I do think depending on when Kevin Harris gets back, and I think he said today what he expects to be back by the opener, but I don't know if there was much detail past that. Other than that, depending on when he gets back, you do at some point sort of have this idea of being in game shape, being in football shape. How much is he able to do leading up to that, even if he is back for week 1? I think is something that if I'm a fan, that I would track. How much is he able to do as far as staying in game shape, getting in game shape, and what does that mean for the rotation at that point? I have said for a while, even before this injury, that I believe Marshawn Lloyd is going to push for that top. Even with what Kevin Harris did, I think Lloyd is going to be a massive part of what South Carolina does on offense. So you give Lloyd an entire preseason taking reps. You give Zaquandre White an entire preseason. Amos, Juju McDowell, who I'm high on. I've actually heard some decent buzz about him and what he's done as well. So, yeah, it's kind of one of those things where you feel good about that position. You like the depth at that position, but you don't want to start testing that depth either right off the bat. You really need, for it to be the unit we all think it is, you need Kevin Harris and a full strength Kevin Harris to be part of that rotation, because ultimately I do think it's going to be sort of a 1-2 punch. I don't know if necessarily by the end of the year that we're going to be saying there's a 1 back and a 2 back. I think both of those guys, Lloyd and Harris, will get a ton of carries, and then the other guys will sort of fill in behind that, I think.
Wes Mitchell, 1241 from Gamecock Central on the JB and Goldwater show. Yeah, I agree. And Wes, back to your point a minute ago about games 1 and 2, Eastern Illinois and East Carolina. I mean, you'd like to think that you don't need Kevin Harris to win either one of those games. I'm not saying or even speculating that they're going to hold him out or not play him a bunch. I have no idea what's going to happen. All I'm saying is, to your point, those are two programs that if for some reason he's not full strength or he's not ready to go, or he is ready to go, but you just want to be careful with him, you probably can be.
Yeah, you from a South Carolina standpoint, you would hope, right? I mean, I do. That ECU game is kind of that game's a little bit scary because it's a weird game to be scheduled in the first place to go to ECU.
They'll be ready.
And I don't even remember. This stuff is scheduled so far ahead now. I don't even remember what the parameter. Was it a travel to? And Carolina played in Charlotte against ECU. I believe that's Connor Shaw's debut as a starter. So yeah, it's just kind of a weird game. They have struggled, but that's going to be ECU's Super Bowl at the beginning of the year. I think.
That's right.
An opportunity to beat South Carolina. So
that's right.
South Carolina, I would imagine, should be in a position to roll Eastern Illinois. ECU, South Carolina's going to need to go up there and play well, I think, too. So that's we'll obviously dive into those matchups as it gets closer, but we'll see. I think, again, Kevin Harris, there's being cleared, and then there's being Kevin Harris of last year and being to that level, to that strength, to that conditioning level. So, so we'll see. But I do know this. We did learn 2 years ago, Kevin Harris is a very fast healer. Like, some dudes heal faster than others, and he's proved he is a very quick healer.
Well, and on that ECU note, they took a lot of transfers in this year, a lot of Power 5 guys. And Mike Houston is a hell of a football coach. He's a guy that I respect. I know Darren respects. Hey, Wes, I know you respect immensely for what he did at the Citadel, what he did up there at James Madison. And I think what he's about to do at East Carolina, I don't know that they're quite there yet. But in the next few years, who knows? Mike Houston might be out of there and on to a Power 5 gig somewhere. He's a pretty darn good football coach. You mentioned Juju McDowell, and his name keeps popping up. And I don't know. I don't want to set any expectations that this young man is going to be some kid who's going to come in and, get a bunch of carries or something like that, Wes. But it appears that this is a guy they think is probably going to be ready to play. In what capacity do you think he's only about 5'9", about 175, 180 pounds, maybe? I know he's a quick, shifty little little booger, so he kind of gets out there and moves around. In what capacity do you think he helps this offense? A guy like him with those type talents.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, it's very hard to put those expectations on him to get a ton of carries just because of what is ahead of him. You know, I think if we weren't having this conversation that we just had, if let's say the running back room was one of the question marks like wide receiver is right now, then I think you would be circling Juju saying, hey, this kid could play a bunch of snaps right now. Special teams maybe is an opportunity for him. You know, we sort of got the vibe listening to Pete Limbo that DeCarrion Joyner may have the edge on kickoff return right now. You know, but McDowell was one of the guys open practice that was back there. One of I think 3 guys that were returning kicks at the beginning of practice. So I think he has a chance to bust in there. Anytime a guy can take over that position and take it off of a starter's hands, to me that's a positive because you don't want your starters getting hurt on special teams if you have better options. So, you know, I like him in that role. If he can catch punts, that's a question with every guy because it's just different catching a punt than it is catching any type of kickoff or thrown pass. It's just different catching a punt. So I would take a look at him there if it was me. And then, maybe as the year goes on, if a couple of guys get banged up, could be a change of pace type guy. Very, very quick, like you said, shifty. And he also is he is a strong kid for his size, man. This kid puts up massive numbers on the squat. I mean, this kid is a very special athlete.
I think we can all agree if he is a pretty good player and he happens to bust 1 or 2 in Williams-Brice Stadium, fans will have fun with that name, Juju. You'll hear that a lot. At Willie B, so we'll see. So you got a story up at Gamecock Central. Matter of fact, I just pulled it up here 7 hours ago, Wes. So you were up pretty early this morning, I guess. I don't know if you time these things or you just like writing at 5 a.m.
No, that was definitely posted to go up this morning before I went to bed.
Oh, okay. Thought maybe you were just an early riser. But the lead in here, Doty excited for Lloyd's debut. So obviously Luke Doty watched Kevin Harris run for 1,200 yards last year and leading the SEC in the regular season, but he's pretty fired up about Marshawn Lloyd. Of course, who isn't? But from a quarterback standpoint, what have you learned as to why he's so excited for this young man who's never taken a snap at South Carolina?
Well, I think first of all, it just goes beyond the football field. These two have a very special relationship. They are roommates. They came in together. They both arrived at the same time. When that class arrived at South Carolina, the very first 2 names out of everyone's mouth after probably a week and a half of strength and conditioning, it was always Marshawn Lloyd and Luke Doty. And the 2 of them have a presence about them, and they feed off of each other, I think, and they've pushed each other. They go the extra mile as far as doing what they're supposed to do. So they just clicked right off the bat. So, you know, I just the point of that article was sort of the fact that Luke has seen he's seen what Marshawn went through and thinking, I mean, we all had such high expectations for Marshawn Lloyd going into last season. And I'm sure Lloyd had just as high expectations for himself. So you get that taken away really for the first time in your playing life. It sucks. So, I think Luke is obviously really excited. He said Marshawn's a special talent on the field, but just as excited for him as a person and as a friend. And I think it's fitting that, as long as there are no injuries or anything, Luke will be the one handing the ball off for his first carry. And that's a moment the 2 of them have dreamed about. That's something they've talked about a ton, is sharing the backfield together. Obviously, who knows how many times they've handed the football off to each other in a practice setting, but to do it in Williams-Brice Stadium for the first time will be a really cool moment for both those guys. And, I remember, I don't know if people outside of this program are talking about Lloyd going into this year enough, because this time last year, he was popping up on those little graphics people put out, like top 10 freshmen to watch this year and newcomers to what, Lloyd was a pretty big name around the conference, I think. And I think because he didn't play last year, he's been forgotten a little bit. So I got really high expectations for this kid. And He's just such a good dude. The way he carries himself, I think it'll be fun to see those two guys feed off of each other, because I think that's, you look at the offense, it's going to have to be based around this running game in a lot of ways. I think
that's not a little thing, right? The fact that they are that close, the fact that they are roommates, the fact that they are the same age and you can put them in the group of like the future of the Gamecocks and how this Beamer era will start and how we'll remember the beginning. The fact that they are that close, that's a big deal to me.
Yeah, it matters, and it goes well beyond just working out together a little bit. They're super tight. They've done holidays together. It goes well beyond just just the on the field stuff. So I know it's exciting for both of them. It'll be a special moment for them, and I think they can play off of each other. I mean, Luke's legs are going to be a big part, I believe, of what I think South Carolina's going to have to do on offense.
Speaking of that, so we kind of got a very blurry look at maybe what a depth chart might look like today if they had to go out and play football this afternoon in a real game, but maybe not. You don't really ever know. But at the start of practice, it looked like maybe Aaron Sterling starting opposite JJ Enagbare at defensive end, or whatever they're going to call that position. I don't know. And then, at linebacker, I mean, we've heard names. Dawn Staley's name's been popping up a lot, Marcellus Dial and things like that. There's not really an official depth chart out, Wes. And if there is one, doesn't really mean a whole lot. We got a ways to go before they get to the season. But I think I would be pretty surprised if I didn't see Jordan Burch starting in game one. Would you be surprised?
Well, we'll see. I want to see how that plays out. I mean, if when Beamer was asked about leaders over the summer and guys who just really caught the staff's attention, the strength staff's attention, Aaron Sterling was one of the first names out of his mouth. So I think, that was Friday when we saw, generally there is a portion of practice early on where they run the defensive guys out there, and it's just basically like a getting lined up and then a pursuit drill. Very, very simple stuff. But that gives us an idea, because they'll come out there as first team, then they'll run them off, and they'll come out there as second team, then they'll run them off, then they'll come out there as third team. The drill, I guess, matters, but it's for the media. That's a very, very, we're very thankful when we see that drill, because we're like, that gives you an idea of what that depth chart probably looks like right now. Now, generally, day one, your guys that have played, your guys that have been great leaders, your guys that have carried the team in summer workouts, they're going to be the first guys out there. So we knew JJ Enagbare was going to be out there. Not a surprise that Aaron Sterling's out there. Linebacker, you have Brad Johnson, you have Sherrod Green. Those are the older guys in the room. Right. Those are the guys that have played. They're the two guys that are out there. Noteworthy, Karan Prunty, also out there with the first team. So that tells you just how high the staff is on him, that day one, he's already out there with the first team. Not unexpected, but it does say something. I just think at that edge spot, they really have four guys that they can count on, because I will throw Jordan Strong in there as well. He was injured in the spring, but the way Clayton White talks about that kid, you really have four guys there. So I don't know exactly, who starts game one. Does the veteran get the start, but then Burch plays more? Is it a matchup thing? How do you actually do the rotation? I'm going to say, in my opinion, that's probably to be determined, exactly what all that looks like. But that's one of their positions where I actually think it's a good problem to have. I look at running back, I look at tight end, and I look at that edge spot, and it's more like, okay, that looks the way you want it to look in the SEC. So we'll see, man. I think Jordan Strong's going to have his say before it's over as well, which, again, if you can have four guys that can rotate at that edge position and stay fresh and still be able to go get the passer, that's a very good sign for South Carolina on that side of the ball.
What about on the inside? Oh, I'm sorry.
Prunty look. I just wanted to go back to Prunty, because obviously, he comes in with high accolades and a lot of guessing that he could be out there day one. How did he look when you saw him in person?
I mean, he looked the part. I mean, again, we're not seeing any actual plays. So you're seeing someone
Size, body.
physically.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all the look test, basically, the eyeball test. I mean, long, tall kid. Yeah, I mean, they're very, very high on him. They took him just because they were good with their numbers, and it was sort of a situation where it was like, okay, he's too good not to go after him.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that says something that he's on the field right off the bat. But yeah, inside, and I see Craig mentioning Tonka. Yeah, Tonka is going to be an inside guy. So I think you look inside. You've got a little bit of I would say a little battle in there. Jabari Ellis and Zach Pickens were the first guys out there, but I've said it before. I think before it's over, Tonka Hemingway is going to have his say inside. He may push his way above some guys that have been there longer than him and take a starting position. So I feel a little bit better about the edge spot right now, me personally, but there's a lot to look for now and just going off into the future at the defensive tackle spot.
I played golf yesterday with somebody who's a coach up in the PD area and knows Luke Doty and Tonka Hemingway pretty well. And he was telling me, he said, let me tell you something. If Tonka Hemingway would have just strictly stuck to football, this guy would have been a top 40, top 50 player across the country. I said, I've heard that before. He knows it. I know all you guys, and we talk a bunch. I said, I've heard that before. I said, you really think that? He said, oh, there's no question. But he played like 4 sports, and he was also like on the chess team, or I don't know. He had his time all over the place, and he was like, dude, he needed a couple of years, not just one. He needed truly like a couple of years in a strength program in college. And this kid he's probably off to the NFL. What do you think about those comments?
Yeah, I mean, and that's something we've sort of said, especially as far as his size goes. These big guys, man, it is hard for them to keep on weight, particularly if you're playing basketball. If you're playing basketball, you're running up and down the court, which Tonka did. Same thing with TJ Sanders, the freshman that's there now. I'm curious to see how big does TJ get, man? Super athletic kid, great frame. But he was a really good basketball player. But you look at Tonka, man, this kid was playing football, basketball, baseball, National Honor Society, National Spanish Honor Society.
Unbelievable.
Oh, his time is spread, and physically you're getting spread out, which is actually for building athleticism, if that's possible. That's great because you're using so many different types of muscles. You're using so many different movements that I love when guys play multiple sports in high school. Now, when you get to college, though, and you sort of whittle it down to what you really do best, there was a question, where does Tonka end up? Is he an outside guy? Is he an inside guy? As we've seen, it didn't take long at all. Some of these guys never really truly get to defensive tackle size, and they end up being tweeners. Tonka, with really one true last offseason, that wasn't even a true summer weight program because you're dealing with COVID protocols.
Right.
So it didn't take long at all. The kid's up right under 300 pounds. Now, will he maybe drop a little bit of that in fall camp right now, in preseason camp? Probably, because you're out there sweating your tail off in the Columbia heat. But he easily got to a playing weight where you can play inside, and that's a great sign. But this is also one of these kids, y'all, that does he doesn't just do what he's asked. He does the extra step to get there. He puts in the extra work. If you take talent, NFL bloodlines, his brother played, Junior Hemingway played at Michigan, highly recruited guy as well. The sister may be the best athlete in the entire family. She is a great softball player, by the way. So this family is just an awesome, well-rounded family. And Tonka is one of those guys you can just tell. He's been compared to DJ Wanham as far as just now they're a little bit different player with how big Tonka has gotten, but he's been compared to him in terms of like just that sort of just way he goes about his business. Very unassuming kid, just does what he's supposed to do and goes to work.
Sounds like an NIL deal is on the horizon if he can have a heck of a career at South Carolina. Tonka trucks were one of my favorite toys as a kid. We'll see. I don't know. We also can continue to check out Gamecock Central because Wes and Chris and Colin and everybody there are covering preseason football as well as you possibly can do it today. Jalen Brooks, Kevin Harris, Chad Terrell, and Josh Van all meeting with the media post-practice. Stories will be up on those guys' comments here in just a little while. And also, right now, as important as anything, if you like to party, we like to party, and you can go to Gamecock Central and check out the VIP tickets for the August 20th kickoff party, Wes, at Steel Hands Brewing. But it's a free event, so even if you don't purchase a VIP ticket, you can still go and have Wes Mitchell, sign your tattoo or something like that.
Yeah, come on out. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be fun. You can't beat you got free music from Patrick Davis, man. I mean, you can't beat that. And thank you to all of our sponsors. Please go on there and support our sponsors because that actually is what made it possible to be a free event, as we had sponsors.
That's right.
Sort of splitting the cost there for us. So, yeah, come on out. It'll be fun. You don't have to be a subscriber. You don't even have to pay. Just come out and have a good time. If you want VIP, we do have the information on how to buy those. Last I checked, there are still a few tickets left on the VIP end. So check that out, GamecockCentral.com.
Going to be so much fun. And Patrick, I think Lauren's coming with Patrick as well. And so the entertainment's going to be something special. Wes, I'm still trying. I texted you last week. I'm still trying to figure out if I can make it up there or not. My wife's travel schedule may be getting in the way. She might need to go see some friends. So if that happens, I have children. I can't bring them to this event. So
you maybe could, but
they're VIP.
Do I need to call your wife and put in the recruiting pitch for you to be able to?
Oh, I've done that.
Sell it for you.
Yes, and record the call. Can it be video? Because I'd like video evidence when you ask her to adjust her travel schedule for her husband's travel schedule.
I know.
This is a work trip for him.
That's what I said. She said, well, you got 7 of those coming up in the fall to Williams-Brice Stadium.
You have 7. What's one more?
I said, we have 8. I'm going to Knoxville.
And to Columbia for this.
That's right. Yeah, I don't know. But I'm trying. I'll let you know here hopefully probably today. So Wes, thank you, man. Good report as always. GamecockCentral.com. 2:00 today, GC Live. Wes, right? Wes Mitchell and Chris Clark.
Thanks, guys.
Have a great week. There you go.
Yep.
Wes Mitchell with Gamecock Central. Time for a timeout. When we return, we will wrap the Olympics, talk about the Braves a little bit. How about Will Muschamp back on the field, coaching football in Athens, Georgia, a place he knows quite well. What do you think about that, Gamecocks? You get to see him in week 3. We'll discuss here on the JB and Goldwater Show, driven by Stokes Volkswagen.
At Patriots Point Naval and Maritime Museum, families walk in the footsteps of our nation's heroes, the brave ones who risk their lives to defend our way of life. Home to the aircraft carrier USS Yorktown, USS Laffey, and the USS Clamagore, there's more than 1 million square feet of exhibit space to roam. White Glove certified, we have several new health safety measures in place to enhance the visitor experience. Come for the day and leave feeling inspired. One of the most impressive museums in the country, located right here in Mount Pleasant. Visit patriotspoint.org for more. We'll see you soon.
Bourbon and whiskey drinkers of Charleston, Paddock and Whiskey on James Island and the Terrace Shopping Center on Maybank is your home for the finest and rarest bourbon and whiskey drinks in the Low Country. This is where I hang out. Go meet my friends Reed and Chris and try one of their exclusive barrel pick bourbons. They have the largest private barrel collection in the state, and let their knowledgeable staff recommend your next pour. PaddockandWhiskey.com. Let not your heart be troubled. Paddock and Whiskey is here for your next double. We're all friends around here. Paddock and Whiskey, proud partners of the JB and Goldwater Show.
This is Scott Glaze, head golf professional at the Links at Stono Ferry, located on the outskirts of Charleston, South Carolina. I'm inviting you to tee it up on one of the most scenic and challenging courses in the Low Country. Our back 9 is highlighted with 3 holes that border the Intercoastal Waterway. Visit stonoferrygolf.com to book tee times and discover all that Stono Ferry has to offer. The Links at Stono Ferry is a former South Carolina Golf Course of the Year and is also home to the College of Charleston men's and women's golf teams. Come see us. We would love to have you. stonoferrygolf.com.
Hi, I'm Chris Half, Public Information Officer at the Patriots Point Naval and Maritime Museum. We're home of the mighty USS Yorktown, USS Laffey, Flamagore, and Vietnam experience. And we're a proud partner of the JB and Goldwater Show. We invite you and your family to come see us and enjoy a day on Charleston Harbor. Visit patriotspoint.org for more information. And now, it is my honor to present the national anthem.
Live, loud, and online.
Final hour, Monday afternoon. Welcome back to the JB and Goldwater Show, driven by Stokes Volkswagen, stokesvw.com. August the 9th it is. We are inching towards football season in college football. We're inching towards football season at the high school level. We've had a Hall of Fame game. We had Hall of Fame speeches this weekend. We got Perry Orth coming up at 1:30 today. Looking forward to that. JB and Darren, make sure you follow us on social media at JB and Goldwater, individually at Sports Media JB and at Darren Goldwater. Again, Perry Orth ahead in about 25 minutes, and we'll talk about that QB room at South Carolina. Speaking of which, in just a moment, we'll get to a quick nugget on Jason Brown, who currently right now would be considered a backup quarterback to Luke Doty, but he is listed as a potential draft prospect by one very notable publication out there, ahead of one very notable quarterback who is signing NIL deals left and right. So that's ahead here in just a couple of moments as well, in addition to Will Muschamp. But first, Darren, last night, I'm laying on the couch watching the NFL's Hall of Fame speeches.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't get a chance to watch them every year, but I did watch them this year. That was sensational. I mean, oh my gosh. It was, from a local standpoint, it was neat to see Derek Moore and his introduction of Calvin Johnson, Megatron, of course, one of the great wide receivers we've ever seen play. Charles Woodson, Charles Woodson, his speech with his mom and crying the whole time was just incredible. And Peyton Manning, his speech, but it wasn't really just a speech. It was, as Rich Eisen called it, it was a presentation for the future of football, trying to protect football is what I think he was doing, and to continue to engage football in our communities, and how he's going to do that and challenging those around him, his Hall of Fame brothers, basically, and just everybody in America, to continue to support football and encourage the sport's growth and things like that. All of it, though, together was really neat. I think, the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame and the NFL Hall of Fame, they really do a good job. I mean, they televise these things and they make it all about the athlete, and they try to make it as special as they can. They let the public show up and cheer for everybody. They really, really do a good job. But last night, I think that I've never enjoyed a Hall of Fame ceremony or anything like that as much as I enjoyed watching that one.
I generally don't watch the Hall of Fame ceremonies live. I didn't watch these live. I did see a snippet of Peyton's speech live, but generally and last night was no exception. I wasn't watching them. I have seen good portions of lots of them right by now, some snippets of them. So I loved Peyton. I loved Edgerrin James basically saying, I was told you'd never wear dreads or look like that and get into the NFL, and now you got dreads on the bust. Palomalu's hair was pretty solid. I liked Isaac Bruce. Dan Patrick showed a bit on what he did, referencing the "How You Like Me Now," whoever the old rapper is, because he was told like in the week leading up to the draft that he was never going to play, and he's like, I'm not going to say who told me that, but I hope you're still alive, because how you like me now, right? Going into the Hall of Fame. So there was
so cool.
There was a lot of good feel. I have been to a baseball Hall of Fame weekend. I've never been to Canton, but I do know a couple dudes who go every single year and have the same feels from it. Just how you described it, the intimacy of the whole event, the pageantry, the history. It's not about the game, and there is no game for the baseball inductions, but it's the events surrounding everything and how interactive you can be and how much interaction you can have with a lot of these guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe there should be a game for the baseball one, by the way. I don't know. But what stands out with both of them for me, the towns that they're in.
Mm-hmm.
Canton, Cooperstown. Not New York City, not Chicago, not Cleveland, Atlanta. Well, that's where the College Football Hall of Fame is, and that's neat. That's a great thing to tour. But these professional Hall of Fames are located in Canton and Cooperstown. Mm-hmm. I just think that's really neat. So pretty impressive stuff. If you happen to miss it, I would go check that out here if you can. By the way, there is no Hall of Fame baseball game, but there is kind of a Hall of Fame baseball game at least this week with the White Sox and the Yankees coming up on Thursday. The Field of Dreams game, which was supposed to be played last year, being played this year.
Do something for yourself. And I encourage everybody who loves baseball the way that I know both of us do. Fox did a special this weekend, and I have to still go back and watch the end of it because we ended up at the pool at the very end of it, so I haven't seen it. But it's the behind-the-scenes making of the Field of Dreams.
Yeah.
And I would have told you on Friday afternoon that I know everything there is to know about that movie. On Saturday afternoon, I would tell you I knew basically nothing on Friday. This thing is loaded with information, loaded with stories. The actors, the development people behind the scenes, like that was a real farmhouse that they scouted out after the script was written. And they went and sent, I forget her actual title, sent her, this lady out taking pictures of farms and houses and where can we do this movie. So she approaches some guy and says, hey, Universal wants to do a picture here. And then that movie was made in the summer of the drought that was so bad that Ronald Reagan went and visited Iowa. And there was basically no corn growing anywhere except on that field because they were able to figure that out. They almost canceled production. There is so much behind that movie. If you love it like I do, Google that video or it's an hour-long special from Fox. Watch it. It's awesome.
Okay. What's the name of it?
I don't know, the making of Field of Dreams or something. It was Fox.
Okay. But it's like on YouTube or something?
I saw it on Fox, but it's got to be out there on demand in various places. I'm going to
write that down.
I'll send you a link. I'll find it.
All right. Very cool. Yeah, I'm actually, I have nothing to do with my life today, so I'll just watch that. And I'm kidding. Very cool. Very cool nugget there. All right. Real quick, the Olympics have wrapped up. 113 for the Americans, 113 medals. They lead the field by 25. China second with 88. And how about this? Go USA, gold, one more than the Chinese, 39. China chipped in with 38, and Japan with 27. The Americans, more bronze, more.
Did we just lose Jamie? Jamie just went snap out right there, didn't he? But yeah, Team USA comes from behind, picks up the most gold medals. They pick up the most overall medals, which is, they were right around the top anyway for the most part there. And I know where Jamie was going with this, and as soon as he pops back in, he's going to be gleaming with pride and excitement over this. Dawn Staley has said that she will not coach the Olympic team anymore, the national team anymore. She goes out on top. Asia Wilson wins the gold medal as well. So Team USA wins not only the men's side, they win the women's side of things as well. Capture the most overall medals. I think some of that was in volleyball too, if I'm not mistaken. That they won women's volleyball. I know they won women's volleyball, but they weren't expected to come back and win the women's volleyball. It was the first ever gold medal for the women in volleyball. So that helped the U.S. overcome China and have the most gold medals in the Olympics this year. We'll take a quick time out. We'll try and figure out what's going on with Jamie's internet. And when we get back, we also have Perry Orth coming up at about 1:30. Talk a little bit about the Gamecock quarterback room, some of the depth chart that we think we know that we were starting to speculate with when we were talking to Wes Mitchell. Talk a little Gamecocks football with our QB1 of QB1 Athletics, Perry Orth. That's coming up as the JB and Goldwater show driven by Stokes Volkswagen continues.
This is Mike Mazzell for Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate Road with exciting news. It's springtime and we're playing ball. Most dealerships don't have any inventory, but at Stokes Volkswagen we do. So we're playing ball on every new Volkswagen in stock. Every new Volkswagen available with zero down. Qualified buyers can sign and drive with interest-free financing for 60 months. Remember, Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate Road is the fastest, easiest way to sell your car and get the most money for your trade. Plus, we'll take any trade in any condition, paid off or not. Is your credit in a slump? Strike two! If you've got $500 down and you make at least $2,000 per month, our lenders can get you approved. So if you want to strike out, that's okay. But if you want to hit a home run and save on a new Volkswagen, come see us today at Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate Road or StokesVW.com.
$1,666 per month per $1,000 borrowed for 60 months at 0% APR with zero down. Plus tax tag. Includes $499.50 administration fee. Subject to VCI credit approval. Expires month end.
Peace and love at Stokes Dub.
Wando Power Equipment, the trusted home of Hustler zero-turn residential and commercial mowers. There is nobody more trusted in South Carolina than our friends from Wando Power Equipment. They've been providing elite commercial and residential service for over 30 years. Landscape Services have turned to their selection of Hustler zero-turn mowers like the Raptor. Bigger, stronger, faster, and the most durable Raptor Hustler has ever designed. Located on Daniel Island and online at wandopower.com. Wando Power Equipment, owned by the Price family, the home of Hustler zero-turn mowers, rentals, service, and specializing in family and friendship.
Shrimping season's back. That means local caught shrimp. That's right, local caught shrimp back on the menu at the Dog and Duck. All three locations, Bell Hall, Park West, and Clements Ferry Road, now featuring once again local caught hand-breaded shrimp, plus other daily specials like the Game Day Burger every Wednesday, Rib Night on Friday, rotating taps all the time, and all the TVs you can possibly imagine for whatever you want to watch. The Dog and Duck in Bell Hall, Park West, and on Clements Ferry Road.
What's up, everybody? This is South Carolina singer-songwriter Patrick Davis, and I might live in Nashville, Tennessee now, but guess what? I can always keep up with the news back in South Carolina because I've got the JB and Goldwater show. Thank you, JB and Darren, for being live, loud, and on.
Generally, we are. I have no idea what happened back there. Didn't really lose internet service. My computer just shut off. So somebody around here pulled a plug on me. But we're back once. I know, dude, I'm telling you, I said you're looking. I'm going, wait a second. There's nothing wrong. What happened? Anyways, congratulations to the Americans is what I was trying to wrap up there. Dawn Staley and Asia Wilson, gold medalists, by the way. Congratulations to those fine Gamecocks and fine Americans. It is the last time that Dawn Staley will be the head coach of the Olympic team. She has said she's going to step down, let the next one come up and do that. This isn't something that's unusual. This happens a lot. Pat Summitt only did it once and things like that, so not a whole lot to look into there. But I if I had to look into it, I'd say Dawn Staley just doesn't really want to have to balance all that anymore. That's a lot, man.
She's done enough. You listed her resume on Friday. I mean, yeah, she's done enough. It's okay to step away and say, you know what, I'll take this off my plate.
Yeah, I think she wanted to get gold with this team, and she did it. Maybe that's the gold medal they needed. You could cut it any way you want to, but they got one more gold than anybody else, and thankfully they won gold. So did the men. Baseball got silver. So, anyways, good Olympics. Derek King has signed a NIL deal with the Florida Panthers. NHL team is going to pay a college quarterback to endorse them. Commercials, appearances. They're even going to give him a special menu section at the concession stands. He's going to have his own menu. What Derek King eats when he goes to watch the Panthers play hockey. He's a college quarterback. Wow. Unbelievable.
I love it because it's not – Florida has proven that it can support hockey. The Lightning are proving that a couple of times in a row right now. But the Panthers haven't quite gotten that oomph to them, and they don't have it now. So now they're signing the most marketable collegiate athlete in their backyard to promote their product. I think it's creative. It came out of left field. My first reaction to it was not, wow, I think it's creative. My first reaction was, what? But now I do think it's creative. I'm now curious, now that I just heard you say that, what Derek King eats if he goes to a Florida Panthers game and how it would taste. I'm curious.
I don't care. I could care less what he eats. I could care less that
because he eats it, but I'm now curious.
Yeah, I could care less that Kevin Harris is in a Bojangles commercial. I could care less that Tom Brady sports Gatorade or whatever. I don't care about any of it. It works, though. That's why people pay these guys to do it. I could care less, but good for him. I think that's 4 or 5 endorsement deals for Derek King.
I've lost count.
You know, it's interesting. Jason Brown might be considered the third string quarterback at South Carolina, but according to NFL Draft Fan Nation, which is part of the Sports Illustrated network, he is the 20th ranked quarterback in the 2022 draft class, ahead of Derek King, who's at number 21. He's also ahead of Malik Cunningham at Louisville, who's ranked 25th. This is Jason Brown, who's played Division III football. Now he's at South Carolina. Might not even be the second string guy. Might be the first string guy. We don't know. But right now he's ahead of the guy named Derek King, who was a Heisman contender at Houston.
Mm-hmm.
And he's supposedly the hot shot of Florida now with all these deals. And this kid is, according to this list, a better pro prospect at quarterback.
And who'd you say put that list out?
Well, it's called NFL Draft FN. It's part of Sports Illustrated. If you go to si.com.
All right.
If you go to si.com.
It was not noted expert, as we shall call him on this show, Chris Sims. It was not him. It was somebody else.
No, it wasn't. And again, look, dude, this is kind of
right.
Yeah. I mean, he's got Spencer Rattler at 1 and Sam Howell at 3, Carson Strong from Nevada at number 2. And I can't say that I necessarily disagree with any of that. I don't really know enough, but
he's probably got Liberty's Malik Williams. He's probably up there pretty high too.
At 5. Yeah. Willis at 5, Southern Cal's Keaton Slovis at 4. How about BC's Yurkovich, Phil Yurkovich there at 6, Matt Corral from Ole Miss at 7, JT Daniels at 8 at Georgia. I continue to be a little bit in the minority here, I think, but I'm still a little I'm not sold on JT Daniels. I mean, look, he opted out, so we didn't see what would have happened. But last year, all we heard about, I can't even remember his name now, the kid that transferred in from Wake Forest, and just because he was the Georgia quarterback, he was going to be everything in a bag of potato chips. He ended up opting out, didn't even get drafted. We saw JT Daniels play, and he played better down the stretch too, and he's got some talent around him. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying he's not good. I think he's an excellent quarterback, actually. But Georgia, you've said this before, Darren, you're right. You have to have an elite guy to win the national championship now. And I don't know that he is what he's being built up to be by a lot of folks out there. Maybe Uiagalelei is, maybe Bryce Young is, maybe JT Daniels is. I don't know, but I'm gonna have to see it. I mean, and it's gonna have to be fairly consistent. And is he the guy at Georgia who can win the game that the guy at Georgia generally loses?
And he's going to have to do it immediately. He's going to have to do it in week 1. He has to look right. He doesn't have to win week 1. Georgia doesn't have to beat Clemson week 1, but he has to look like he is fully in command of that offense. That entire offense needs to be at his fingertips week 1.
Yeah.
And whatever happens, right? If you lose, you lose, but he's got to look the part because if he doesn't, then panic sets in. And then not only are you fighting, all right, we're 0-1, really, who cares? All of a sudden you're fighting, wait a second. Can we be this team we're supposed to be if it didn't look good against what should be a damn good Clemson defense anyway? But that'll be the perception.
It might be the toughest test he sees this year in week 1. I mean, Clemson might be the best defense they see all year long.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, they don't have to win week 1, but he's got to, if and it's week 1, anything can happen in week 1. I get it. We all get better, get worse, whatever. But it'd be probably a pretty good thing for him to look fairly elite in week 1. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. Speaking of Georgia, starting in week 1, Will Muschamp appears to be on the field as an assistant coach, maybe coaching special teams. I'm not sure if they're going to shuffle things around or what. But Scott Cochran is taking a leave of absence for some health issues, and we'll see when he comes back. Scott Cochran, by the way, of course, used to be the strength coach for a long time at Alabama. He was in that commercial with Saban, and then he left and went to Georgia, and he's been coaching special teams. This will be his second year actually on the field as a coach instead of off of it with the strength staff or something like that. But he's gone. Muschamp is in. I think probably the long-term plan was to get Will Muschamp back on the field anyways in Athens, Georgia. Look, man, I'm going to defend Will Muschamp here because I get it. There's a lot of Gamecock fans out there that just can't stand the sight of this guy, and he ruined our program and this, that, and the other, yada, yada. I know. Saw it all. 2-8. Terrible. I get it. I understand what happened. Does anybody know why he became a head coach? Because he was one of the best defensive coordinators in the country, if not the best. Like, Will Muschamp is a hell of a football coach. He's a damn good defensive coordinator. And he's only an asset if he's on the field as an assistant coach. So seeing some of these people say things like, oh, he's going to ruin their program like he ruined our – no, he's not. No, he's not. Number one, he's not the head coach, okay? That's number one. Number two, he has a 20-year track record of being one of the best defensive coaches in college football. Like, this guy is a great football coach. Because he's not a good head football coach or even an average head football coach doesn't mean that he's going to suck the life out of the special teams unit at Georgia or the defense being back on the field in an assistant's role. That's not what that means at all, like at all. He is a matter of fact, people might know, and it wouldn't be good today. I'm not saying like right now because he was the head coach of the Gamecocks for 5 years, but had he never been the head coach at South Carolina, had he never been the head coach of the Gamecocks, you'd be an idiot to not want to hire this guy on your staff. You'd be a moron. Matter of fact, does anybody remember when he got fired at Florida and then he went to Auburn as the defensive coordinator? Everybody remember that? 80% of this fan base, there was an opening at South Carolina before they hired John Hoke, wanted Will Muschamp to come take over the defense for Spurrier. And all of a sudden, he's not good enough to coach defense? I mean, dude, some people, I get it. I wear the same colors as some of you, but get off the ledge. My God, move on. You care. I mean, he's going to be good for Georgia. It is what it is. And I bet you what, I know this. When he played as the head coach at South Carolina, when they took on Florida, when he was at Auburn and played the Gators, I think that one year, you know how many former players couldn't wait to get on the field after the ball game to give him a hug? There's going to be no animosity. Like, fans can have that. You can throw rocks at your TV screen all you want to. But the kids and the coach, they'll be fine when they play in Athens in week 3.
Absolutely, they'll be fine. You never heard guys throwing him under the bus, and they had every opportunity to do that. You pointed out the track record of success. Plenty of people, right? I'd put myself in this category. You're good at certain things, and you're not good at others. He can be a great, if not elite, defensive coordinator and be a complete disaster as a head coach. Those two things can be true together. Bill O'Brien can be an outstanding coordinator at Alabama and be a total failure as a general manager in the NFL. Both of those things can be true. Will Muschamp didn't work at South Carolina. You can have your debates about how he did at Florida. Texas wanted him. Remember that? Like, he was there. That was going to happen.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just not meant to be for him as a head coach. He can still be one of the better defensive minds.
Absolutely. I mean, do what you want with your lives. I don't really care what you do, but I just find it fascinating the people that think that all of a sudden he was going to go from being one of the best defensive coordinators in the country. Yeah, he was 10 years as a head coach, not very successful. Didn't do Florida any favors, didn't do South Carolina any favors as far as building the program. But it's fascinating how many people literally have no clue about sports. Like, there's a reason why everybody wanted this guy to be their defensive coordinator. There's a reason why he got hired at Florida, why Texas wanted him as their head coach. There's a reason why South Carolina hired him as their head coach. He is an excellent football mind. Period. The end. I wish him the best. I really do. I don't wish him the best when they play against South Carolina, but I wish him the best. Absolutely, no doubt about it. This guy knows Will Muschamp as well, former quarterback at South Carolina. Perry Orth starting his Mondays off on the JB and Goldwater show, and we certainly look forward to spending football season with him. What's up, brother?
Nothing much, man. Thanks for having me back on. It's been a minute.
Yeah, it's been too long. I mean, I saw you at the baseball at the regional. Got to spend a couple minutes with you and your fiance. You're now married, so good luck.
So there's that.
So yeah, we got married about a little over a month ago.
Yep.
It's been nothing but roses and sunshine, brother.
Oh yeah.
We went to Jamaica for the honeymoon, and Shannon's a former Gamecock letterman, so she was a beach volleyball stud. Just to brag on her, she's second all time in wins in South Carolina beach volleyball history. Played in the one spot her entire career, from freshman to senior year. I mean, she actually herself had a number one upset win in her career. They beat Southern Cal.
Yeah.
I think it was her junior year. They made it to the Nationals, which is the top 8 teams in the country. Her sophomore and junior year. So never thought that I'd get into a relationship or a marriage where my spouse is more athletic than me. But here we are.
Well, first of all, congratulations. I was just messing around with you, but that is really great. I remember when that happened. That was national news when that happened in the sports world, that upset. And certainly we wish you the best, man. You know that. And I know one thing, you and Shannon will be sitting in Williams-Brice Stadium 7 times this fall to watch the Gamecocks play. How amped are you for the inaugural Shane Beamer season?
Man, we were excited. Last night we were walking around the track over at USC. We both, we both had lived downtown, and then now that we're married, we bought a house over in the Rosewood area, so we're still right kind of near campus. And we were walking the track last night, looking at the stadium, just so excited that there's going to be a normal football season again. Last year was just such an awkward, weird year with the COVID protocols and all that good stuff. We're just so amped to have a full Williams-Brice back, and the new era we're so excited. And there's just that overall, that feel to the program that just, it wakes you up in the morning and gets you excited that, Carolina football's coming back, and there's so much uncertainty and so much unknown. And that's kind of what makes it fun and makes it exciting going into this fall.
Absolutely. There's no question about that. Perry, it's you've been around the facility a bunch. I know you've spent plenty of time with the coaches. I know you know a lot of the guys. Even though you're getting old, man, a lot of these dudes, they don't know you anymore. You got to keep reintroducing yourself to each generation. But from a quarterback standpoint, Perry, it does appear that this is Luke Doty's team unless somebody takes it from him. From what I understand, he's not going to lose the job. Somebody would have to come take this from him. He's had a pretty darn good offseason. I know Luke. You've worked with Luke. What have you learned about his progression as essentially South Carolina's starting quarterback heading into his second year into the program?
Yeah, I think the things that I've been hearing is the grasp of the offense, but also, and more importantly, the leadership, being more of a vocal guy. And, it's crazy because he's still a freshman, and that he's been thrust into that position, and he's didn't really have a choice. You either got to get with it or, you got to get with it. So, he's trying to take that next step as a leader, and you can do all the right things in the off season, and you kind of have to, but you never really know until you're getting out there and you're consistently playing in games, and you can really get a feel for things of how he'll perform. I know last year he was thrown into obviously a not preferable situation. I wouldn't wish, being thrown into that, that environment with, a couple games left and head coaches just left, and you got players sitting out, players missing with COVID, and just kind of a cluster. And fortunately, and I'm hopeful that confidence wasn't ruined in that. He had some really nice moments and some freshman moments as well that you're going to have. And hopefully with all the reps that he's been getting through spring ball and summer and everything, that he'll be ready to go when they suit up here in a couple weeks.
Coach Satt called him a couple weeks ago. He said that he truly believes that this young man has an opportunity to be an upper echelon quarterback in the SEC. That's pretty high praise, Perry. Marcus Satterfield's basically a freshman coordinator in this league, and as you mentioned, Luke Doty's still a freshman, basically. But when your offensive coordinator, like Marcus Satterfield, guy's been around. I mean, he's seen some players. When he says something like that, how do you take that? How should that be comprehended? How is it being comprehended by Luke Doty, and how should we comprehend those comments?
Well, yeah, I mean, it just shows the confidence that Coach Satterfield has in Luke, and it also speaks to the ability that he has as an athlete. Luke is one of the better high school athletes ever to come out of South Carolina. I mean, a kid who played receiver his first two years in high school for Myrtle Beach, and came in and ended up winning a state title for them at quarterback. And he's a kid that has all the tools. He's fast, he's agile, he throws the ball with accuracy. I know some people have questioned his arm strength, but that's going to come and get better with age, strength, and maturity. As a college quarterback, he's got every single thing that you would want as far as a tool. So now it's just how fast can he process the information from a mental side, and is our coaching staff, are they going to put him in the best chance to succeed to throw accurate balls? Our guys got to catch, our offensive line's got to block, running back's got to run, defense got to keep guys from scoring. All of that factors into quarterback play. Because if guys are catching passes and running backs are running well, offensive line's blocking well, but defense can't, catch cold, or can't stop anybody. Next thing you know, you're always having to play, kind of out of your comfort zone, because based off of what I'm seeing and hearing, I don't think we're going to be a 5-wide throat 45, 50 times a game team. So all of that goes into play, especially when you have a younger quarterback who's still kind of getting his wits about him. But it'll be really, really fun to see how our team responds to him and how he responds to everyone else.
Perry Orth, 1:37 on this Monday afternoon on the JB and Goldwater show. Not at all, Perry, to discount or to downplay Eastern Illinois and their football program, but it's a game that South Carolina should comfortably win. How do you think a game like this, a kind of an ease into the season type ball game, type 4 quarters, could help? I mean, Luke started a couple games last year. Obviously, he played QB at the end of the season, so he was thrown in the fire, as you mentioned. Had a nice game against Georgia. Had to go to Kentucky and things like that. I mean, he knows what it looks like. But starting a new year with a new coordinator, a new offense, kind of easing your way into the season, how much of a benefit is it, or is there a benefit to playing a team like Eastern Illinois instead of firing out of the gates in some neutral site ball game or something like that?
Yeah, it's definitely helpful because football, and the older I get, the more I coach, the more I realize how important confidence is. And football is a game of confidence. And if you can go out there and confidently play, you're going to play well. But when you play a team that's a little lesser than you, it's like when you're playing pickup basketball and you're shooting the ball around the court, you just want to see the ball go in the hoop, right? That's all you want to see. You're like, all right, I just got to get one more before we can start this game, right? So it's the same thing when you're playing football. You want to see the receivers catching passes. You want to see yourself and feel yourself hit big plays. You want to see your running backs hit the holes and offensive line blocking well. You want to visually see and visually and successfully rep great plays. So that way, you're not stumbling into a week 2 game thinking like, oh man, we can't get it done. Cause say they tee it off with a top 5 team and we may not be that bad after all, but you go out there and you get smacked around a little bit. You lose confidence instantly off the bat. And I think that's a lot of the time those lesser opponents playing them early in the season are to kind of get you tuned up, but also to help teams get confidence moving into when they start playing those top tier non-conference games or the conference games for our sake.
You mentioned earlier, Perry, what will surround the quarterback position. We do know what surrounds the quarterback position, but we haven't seen them go out there and play yet together. Obviously, Kevin Harris had a special 2020, which unfortunately outside of Gamecock land was overshadowed by a 2-8 record in the firing of the head coach, Will Muschamp. But now Marshawn Lloyd is healthy. They've added E.J. Jenkins. I talked to Pat DeMarco. You know Pat pretty well. I talked to him last week, and he's a little bit more optimistic about some of the guys in the wide receiver group than maybe most. I think Pat's a pretty good judge of talent, and he seems to think they have some in there. It's just more along the lines of teaching them how to be a wide receiver at this level. You're returning 84. The Gamecocks are career starts up front. Nick Muse is back at tight end. I mean, there's enough there, Perry. It appears there's enough there. So how do you evaluate where they are offensively? Yes, Luke Doty's young. Yes, they have not proven anything at wide receiver in a little over a year and things like that. But there are some pieces, and with the offensive scheme that appears to be in play now, how does that make you feel as a guy that used to run an offense at South Carolina?
Yeah, I mean, that's the kids have played. We're not this super young team. Luke's got a lot of talent around him. We're still unproven at receiver. I think at tight end we've got some help. Running backs, obviously, we've got plenty of help. I think we have good talent at receiver. I think that again, the confidence piece has got to get there. After a couple games with some bad drops, confidence was ruined. And when you're having a couple good drives and you go dead for 2 quarters and then you fire it up real late, or you're only really having a handful of good drives a game, you don't really build that continuity as an offense and in the pass game. And hopefully the mentality towards the pass game is a bit different than the previous staff. For whatever reason, it was just something that could never really get off the ground. But I think with a new breath of fresh air and guys working together all summer, I think we have the potential to be a pretty decent defense, especially in the air. Luke's got like I said, he's got all the capabilities of throwing the ball at a high level. We just got to find ways to get the guys open. And a lot of times, yes, it is about the personnel that you have, but other times, and in my opinion, more times than not, it's about the play calling and getting receivers open and calling plays that are beating the coverages that you're seeing and not just calling plays just to call them. So there's a lot that goes into it, but when you look at who we have, I'm expecting Jalen Brooks to have a big season. He's an older guy who has played a lot of football, has worked really hard. I've heard great things about him. He's getting ready to take his next step, to be the guy here. Kerryon Joyner, he's a guy who's electric with the ball in his hand. It's time for people like him to step up and make the plays that they were brought in on scholarship to make. And we do that. I mean, schedule's not world beaters, we've got some good competition, but you can go out there and without a question, in my opinion, get to a bowl game and get a few more while they're out there.
I agree. I mean, I certainly think that is attainable. We'll just have to see how it comes together. Do you think, and I don't want, when I phrase this question, Perry, I don't I don't. I'm not trying to get you in trouble here. I'm not trying to throw Will Muschamp or that staff under the bus or anything like that. But hindsight's always 20/20, right? So we can look back today at decisions made in the past and go, well, that was the wrong decision. So I guess what I'm getting at here is, Luke Doty started the season last year as a wide receiver, and he came in as a quarterback, got moved to wide receiver, and then ended up being the starting quarterback to end the season. Kerryon Joyner came in as a quarterback. I think it was widely expected he was going to be moved probably to that receiver role or even somewhere else, but it just hasn't quite totally clicked for him yet. Hell of an athlete, better kid, but I think we're all like, okay, he's got it in, and when are we going to see this athlete that we've long known about, state record breaker, basically, into Kerryon Joyner? So to take the long way around to get to my question here, do you think the road that those two young men have traveled once they've been in the program, their position changes and development and things like that, do you think that's been fair to them as players?
Yeah, I can't speak so much on Luke. I think Luke always knew he was going to play quarterback, but he's such a good athlete that we needed players on the field to make plays as soon as possible. With Kerryon, it was kind of you were going to come in, play receiver, then back to quarterback, and then you were going to help out receiver, and then you actually had to play quarterback. And then last year we came out with trying to have him play receiver. And there is a weird transition year, in my opinion, from people that, play another position, or I think of people like Hayden Hurst, who came in his freshman year, did some good things, but you could tell just it wasn't quite clicking. Then the next 2 years, it all came together, and the guy blew up, first-round pick, and, the rest is history. Where with Kerryon, he had his first year at receiver, trying to get his wits about him, trying to figure it out, get a feel for the position, catching the ball, getting hit, doing all that good stuff. But if you watched him in the spring game, he had a little bit of an extra bounce to him. He had a little bit of extra giddy up. And then when you hear the way that the coaches and the other players have been talking about him, it kind of makes sense. And so when you see things like that, it should get you very encouraged about him and his progression at receiver. And that, he's finally now comfortable with the position that he's in, and now he can go out and play to the capabilities that he has. And again, it's kind of that same old confidence thing. When you have confidence and you're able to play free and just play instinctively, you're gonna be a better athlete. You're gonna play much, much better when you're doing that versus trying to, think or process or rationalize every little detail when you're out on the field. Because sometimes you just got to put your helmet on and play football.
147 Monday afternoon, Perry Orth. Of course, we're sitting here having this conversation under the assumption that Luke Doty will be the starting quarterback, and all signs seem to point in that direction. But Perry, if he's not, that means that it's probably either Jason Brown or Colton Gauthier. Jason is very new to the program. I mean, he just got here early in the spring. Not sure if you've ever interacted with this kid at all. Had some nice moments in the spring game. I think we all need to keep that in context. Fourth string defense, basically throwing to a guy he's thrown to for the last 3 years, who's 6'7". But at the same time, we've also seen enough to kind of know what he looks like out there. I don't know what that transition is like, Perry. I've never been a quarterback. I don't know. He's coming from D3 into the SEC. I'm assuming it's probably pretty difficult. But have you learned anything else about Jason Brown? I mean, this is a tough lead to get through without getting banged up. So if Luke Doty has to come out of the ball game, Jason Brown, Colton Gauthier, what have you learned about those guys?
I really haven't learned a whole lot, to be honest. I know that he played well in the spring game when he had his time. And, I hadn't heard a lot of chatter from the coaches about him playing. I guess we'll let it kind of play itself out in fall camp. But I definitely have heard more about Colton Gauthier. I mean, he's a big kid with a lot of arm talent. Again, he's not too far behind where Luke is at. Luke's just been here a year earlier. He's green in the program, and fortunately, they're both learning a brand new offense at the same time together. learning the team together. So hopefully they'll be able to grow, and Colton will be able to support Luke as they kind of, as they take this next step. It's encouraging. It should be as encouraging as it is kind of anxious for two freshman quarterbacks to be your starter and your backup. But if you keep them in the program, you'll have the opportunity. You look up 2-3 years down the road, and you have a really, really stable room. I think that we have to do what we can to make sure we're not running quarterbacks off.
Yeah.
Because that's when you do that, you get yourself in situations of having to play redshirt freshmen or true freshman quarterbacks, which is not something that you want to major in. And you got to keep these guys around, keep them in the program, and kind of develop that culture so they can be part of that foundation as they grow up over there at the facility.
Getting closer and closer. We are 3 weeks away from what we will be calling game week, Perry. We'll be able to actually talk to you about the ball game coming up in no time, basically. But final question, then we'll let you run here on this Monday afternoon. I'm not sure how much time you have been able to spend around Shane. I know you've spent some time around him since being hired at South Carolina. But over the last few months, as a former player, under Coach Spurrier, under Coach Muschamp, obviously you're very well connected with the Gamecock football alumni community, and just seeing some of the changes that have been implemented under Coach Beamer and this coaching staff. What have you noticed the most? What has stood out to you as the season approaches that maybe feels a little bit different than some things over the last few years?
Yeah, I think the energy around the program is a little bit higher than it was back in the day when Coach Muschamp came. I think people were really excited just for the new, the breath of fresh air, whereas I feel they are the same with Coach Beamer, but there's an energy and a passion that is here that's different. And I think it's because our fan base knows that Coach Beamer, this is his dream spot. Not too many coaches get to start in their dream job as their first job. And so when you look at his age and his energy, you're looking at a guy who could potentially be the guy here for the next 15 to 20 years. And look what his dad did at Virginia Tech. And I think a lot of fans are thinking that could be something very similar. And in a perfect world, we would take Frank Beamer results in South Carolina all day long. Conference titles, playing for national titles. Obviously you'd like to say you'd win a national title, but when you're playing for double digits in conference championships every single year, I don't think our fans are going to complain too much about that. So there's a lot that we see in similarities there. And that just gives us a ton of hope for, what the future holds.
I agree. And, the sport's changing, Perry. You were, your freshman year, you were a part of the final 11-2 team at South Carolina, if I remember correctly.
Yep.
11-2 seasons in the future might get you in a college football playoff, and who knows what could happen from there. So, or 10-2 seasons in the regular season might get you in a college football playoff, and who knows what happens from there. So, but Shane Beamer was a guy that helped build all that, and he's certainly back now, and we'll kind of keep our eyes on what it looks like over the next couple of weeks. Hopefully they stay healthy, Perry. As we all know, that is equally important here in the preseason. Gamecock football right around the corner.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no question. We've been dealing with the injury bug here for the last 3-4 years, so hopefully we can right that ship.
You are not lying, dude. All right. So I'm in the market for insurance. Can you help me?
We're going to have to pause that for right now, and let me touch base with you.
Okay.
We'll put together a good little plan. There's a little transition in my personal work time, so we'll have to fire that engine up maybe in about 3 weeks.
Well, you know what? We'll just we'll keep it humming in the background. Keep putting fuel in the tank, and then we'll hit gas.
Yeah,
we'll hit go. Yeah, that's what we'll do.
For now, for the next month, I'll be the football guru with no plug needed. But always, quarterback training in South Carolina. I got
That's
myself
right.
doing it in Columbia. Bailey Hart down in Charleston does an awesome job with our guys down there. So any quarterbacks or any fathers or mothers that are listening and want their quarterbacks to get some training, hit us up, QB1athletics.com. We'll fire it up.
Best quarterback training in the state. There is no question about that. Steven, of course, comes up often from Florida to help you out amongst many. Perry, thank you so much, brother. Have a wonderful week. Look forward to doing this again next week as we inch ourselves closer to a normal 2021 football season. There you go. Perry Orth, former quarterback of the Gamecocks. Good stuff there, certainly, from Perry. I know he spent some time around the facility, and I love the comment of, you probably don't want to run quarterbacks off because you put yourself in a tight spot. We've been watching a lot of this. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. we've seen it. So,
and there is that. I mean, the fact that Colton Gauthier's there, and he doesn't even you do a good job of making sure if you're talking about Brown or anyone other than Doty, you're going to bring up Gauthier's name, but you don't see that name very often. You don't hear a lot of folks talking about that name, but what he said is important, right? Because if something happens, and let's say we're a year removed from where we are right now, 2 years removed, who knows what's happening in that quarter? If you start running guys off, wouldn't it be much more valuable to have guys who have come up through the system together, experienced guys, however much they've been on the field?
Right.
I don't know, but isn't that better than bringing in a new guy because the last guy transferred out because you ran him off?
Yeah, I know. There's, again, vision is always 2020, right? We always look back and we tell everybody how it should have been. You got to make decisions in the moment and things like that. But, and I brought it up to Perry. I wasn't trying to put him in a pinch necessarily. He played for Will Muschamp. He has a relationship with him. This isn't Muschamp bashing session, and it won't be, but it's fair to question, because we questioned at the time how the Dakereon Joyner and Luke Doty situations were being handled. Like, it's fair to question that, knowing what we know now versus knowing what we knew then, because those were being questioned then. Like, it was, I don't want to speak for anybody but myself here, but I think if I had to speak for others, I think specifically related to both of them, with the understanding when both young men were signed that, hey, there's a chance they could move to wide receiver. There was a little bit more of a realistic chance that would happen with Dakereon than with Luke. But everybody was like, man, we've seen these guys play quarterback at the high school level. I get it. It's not the SEC, but they're really good. But if you're going to move them and it works, fine. We all understand that. You're the coach. If it works and that's what you've identified as the best thing for the program, that's fine. But there was always this fear of it's not going to work. And I can't go as far as to say that. Like, the Doty situation was a little bit different. They didn't play him. I saw Craig's comment. He's right. They didn't play him. They hyped it up for 30 days, and then they didn't play him. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden they moved him back to quarterback. The Joyner story isn't over. So that's TBD there, and I do think they've made strides. But, like, if you go back to, like, Kenny McKinley was a hell of a high school quarterback. But he was recruited to come play wide receiver at South Carolina. In his freshman year, he stepped on the gas, and Steve Spurrier made him a household name.
Because when he got on campus, it was receiver. Like, there was no question at all. That's why I'm intrigued by what he said, and you could hear it in his voice. I'd say cautious optimism, but excitement too in what we could see from Dakereon Joyner. I saw a lot of him in high school, doing high school games down here in the area.
Yeah,
I know how good he was at this level. I also know that a lot of schools were recruiting him and telling him, son, quarterback is not your future.
That's right.
So what they saw, as much better talent evaluators than I am, is someone whose future was likely not at quarterback, but who could very well have an NFL future somewhere else. So now that he's got some time to understand this, like Perry said, maybe it takes a year or so, but he's got some bounce in his step, and now he's been here at this position for a while. he's probably had to come to grips with it because one of the reasons he went to Carolina was to hopefully be a quarterback. So there's probably some mental transition in there also. I'm just guessing. So to see a guy who does have all the athletic ability in the world, one more shot, and let's see if he can take advantage of this one more shot and become that NFL guy that a lot of folks have been saying since he was in high school and before he could become.
I agree. And to his credit, by the way, he has stuck it out. The transfer portal is alive and well, and the Kerryon Joyner's name has not been in it once.
Yep.
He is a hell of a young man. More on that, I'm sure, soon on our program. Mike Morgan tomorrow. I think we'll have Gene Sapikoff back tomorrow.
He should be back, yes.
Should be back. J.C. Sherbert ahead this week. Another big week. Getting closer. Thanks to Perry Orth and Wes Mitchell. And as always, thanks to Darren Goldwater. Thanks to all of you. Rest in peace, Bobby Bowden. It was good to talk about him and his legacy at the top of the show. All right. Have a marvelous rain-free Monday afternoon. The JB and Goldwater Show, driven by Stokes Volkswagen, returns tomorrow at noon. We'll see you then.